Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak." Or at least that's what we think he said, because, ancient Greek translations are hard. In this video, we're going to talk about resolving conflicts, and I will be trying something new. So if you like this approach in this format, please use the like button or write a comment below so I know that this thing resonates with you. And what triggered this video was something that happened to me in the gym. And I promise this is going to be applicable about business in a second. Here's the story. I went to the gym, and when I go to the gym, I only carry an extra bag with my gym shoes because I wear my gym clothes at home. So I enter the gym locker room and I toss my shoes on one of the benches. Now, what happens is a massive backpack falls down next to my shoes and pushes my shoes down on the floor. I raise my eyes and I see this massive boulder of a man. A guy who very obviously just finished his training and is big and doesn't seem terribly excited with what happened. I don't know about you guys, but where I live, this is kind of considered this macho thing of me entering his space and challenging him to a trial of combat. Which was not the case, I was just not looking, but he didn't know that. I look at my back and I look back to him and I say sorry, because I did not intend for this outcome to happen. Now, when I turned to pick my bag up, I realized something else. The locker room was completely empty. I was not only entering his personal space, I was entering his personal space with an entirely empty locker room. He didn't like that. But what happened was that he was so surprised by me apologizing, because that kind of didn't fit with me trying to take his personal space, that he explained his reasons. He kind of looked at my back and was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry too, but that was weird. I mean, the whole place is empty." And then I shared my reasons as well. "I didn't even see you. I was looking at my locker. I only used this locker that's number 29 because I remembered this one from the first time I went here, and I'm afraid that I will forget it if I use a different one." He looked at me for a second. I looked at him for a second, and then we both laughed because it was a ridiculous situation. Now, this situation ended in a very positive way. I had this fun story, nothing bad really happened. The guy left feeling happier compared to when he entered that locker room. It was a good experience. And it started as a terrible experience. It started as something that ruined the mood after his training. It had the potential to ruin my mood before my training. It was not a great situation to begin with, but ended in a very cool manner. So what happened? I broke this down into this 3-part framework. I call it the conflict resolution framework. 3 things happened. Number 1, I de-escalated the situation. I did not go about it by sharing all of my logical reasons and how my locker is so important to me. I started by saying sorry. I did not at that time feel that I was doing something wrong, but I did apologize. And I did apologize not because of my intention, because my intention was not bad. I apologize because my actions unwillingly caused a negative impact on someone. So step number 1 is de-escalating. Step number 2 is understanding the other person. Now, what was handy in that situation is that the guy just shared his perspective with me. I didn't have to ask. But more often than not, you'll find yourself needing to ask the other person, "Hey, why did this situation feel that way to you? What are the implications for you? What is your context? What is your perspective on this? Why does this feel that way?" To find out if you really understood the other person, try repeating what they're saying to you back to them. And if they agree to your interpretation of their words, then you did understand them and you'll see them relaxing even more. Now, number 3 is you can finally share your context and discuss the idea. If you try to do this earlier, if you are anything like me in terms of communication, you will probably fail. I have failed to explain myself every single time unless I de-escalated and I understood the other person first. So don't miss those steps, or you have to learn the hard way, as I did. So when you get to that part, when you get to the discussion part, you start by explaining why you did what you did, what you wanted to do, and what happened. You build your explanation in this manner to share your motivation, share your actions in the way you saw them, and finally share the results and your emotions towards the results. Because you might have the best emotions in terms of motivation, the best emotions in terms of your actions, and then the results might suck, and you might agree that the results suck. So, why do I think this works? First of all, de-escalating. De-escalating is critical because people are emotional. If you try to use logic on an emotional person, it doesn't work. At least for me, it has never, a single time it has never worked. Every single time I try to to explain to an emotional person that they shouldn't be emotional because I have logic, that has massively backfired in my face. Because at that point, people usually don't want to listen about logic, they want to express their emotion and feel understood. And if you don't give them that, they will not stop being emotional. Apologies has worked very, very well for me, and then trying to understand them. After that has happened, and only after that has happened, I was able to introduce logic for the first time in any discussion. And sometimes those two steps didn't happen at the day of the discussion. Sometimes the discussion needed to be postponed for the other person to have time to calm down, for me to have time to have calmed down, because if you're both emotional, there is no way for this to work. And finally, at the very end, a discussion could happen, a logical discussion going through all the details. After the discussion, you can go through everything and, hash up the fine-grained print and all that. Now, here's another tip. When it comes to understanding, this might be the most difficult part for you. One thing that has worked very well for me is asking for micro feedback. And that's not the type of feedback in which you go to someone and say, hey, can you write this, fill this form and give me feedback? It's the type of feedback that you introduce mid-sentence. It's like, hey, you do this by doing this and this and that, or hey, you're saying this and this and that. And at the end of the sentence, you finish by, does this sound okay to you? Does this sound true? Do you think this is wrong? And so on. You want to invite the other person into the conversation and ask them to tell you what they think about what you just said as soon as you say it. If they don't agree and you don't let them speak for a long time, you risk the discussion to escalate again. Anyway, that was it. That's the end of the story. I hope this was useful to you. Press the subscribe button if you want to see more of this. And please use the comment section down below. Tell me if this kind of a story works for you or it doesn't. Anyway, I'm Jordan. I want you to succeed. Stay awesome.